Slow productivity. 4 counterintuitive tips for a highly productive life. Slow productivity is a philosophy that Cal Newport came up with. Initially, I found it to be oxymoronic because how can slow be productive? I realized that I found that term to be oxymoronic because I worked for UPS for 9 years. Add to the fact that for the past 10 years, I've been inundated with hustle culture and productivity culture. I was one of those people that believed that more output meant more rewards. More output meant more success. And in some ways, that can be true. For example, content creation. I put out a large body of content. And the reason I do that is to iterate every single day to get better quality out of my content. So if you look at my first video wasn't all that good. Or if you look at my first piece of content, period, it wasn't all that good. I believe it was a workout video or something like that. The camera angle was terrible and I tried putting music over it. It was bad. And even now, like, I'm pretty sure that a year from now, I'm gonna look back on this content and say, oh, what was I doing? But that's the context in which I believe that more output is more quality. But slow productivity is the antithesis of that. It flies in the face of the whole more output is more success. It's actually the opposite. It's less output is more success, or less is more in general, because the optimization factor that goes into being slow and productive. I'm pretty sure you heard of the story, the tortoise and the hare. And when you think of the tortoise and the hare, you think slow and steady wins the race and haste makes waste. It's very easy to remember that, but for some reason that has become counterintuitive. We live in an age of speed, of more, fast. Again, this is something that I've been inundated with for a very long time. When I used to work for UPS, fast meant productivity. That meant production. That was good. But even during that experience, I found that the faster someone went, the less quality of work they produced. It would produce more missed sorts. It would produce more off routes. The quality of the loads would be bad and the drivers would complain. That's something that I've been wrestling with because I have the natural tendency to want to do more in a shorter period of time. Slow productivity says do less over the course of months and years and your whole life. And when you start thinking in terms of your whole life, suddenly you have the permission to produce your best work. Now, what are the 3 tenets of slow productivity? The 3 tenets of slow productivity are do fewer things, work at a natural pace, and obsess over quality. I'm gonna be adding a 4th tenet to this because I need to round this out a little bit. I know for a fact that if I'm obsessing over quality, I'm going to have another issue, which is knowing when to stop. So that's gonna be the 4th tenet, knowing when to stop. Because slow productivity has this circular thing to it, right? It's do fewer things, right? Then you're gonna work at a natural pace. And then you're gonna obsess over quality. Knowing myself, if I'm obsessing over quality and if I'm, putting my best into the work that I'm doing with the current knowledge that I have, I'm going to become a victim of perfectionism. The first one, do fewer things. When you do fewer things, you're freeing up mental energy that would otherwise be taken up by this mental overload that Cal Newport references. If you've ever had a whole laundry list of things to do, you know how overwhelming that can be. If you have 20 things to do, you're thinking about those other 19 things when you're working on the first task. When you're doing the second task, you're like, okay, 18 more to go. Third, okay, 17. So you have all of these other factors that play into how you do your work. And one of them is the mental overload just from looking at the sheer amount of volume of work that you have to do for the day. I know I felt that way when I used to go to the gym and I had programmed way too much volume for that session. And then I just didn't feel like doing the workout. And if I did do the workout's quality would suffer because I was just doing too much, and it was mentally taxing just to know that after these 4 sets of squats, I have to do 4 sets of deadlifts. Like it was ridiculous. So when I started to train more efficiently, I started to lower the volume, and I was getting much more quality out of the workouts that I was doing. The next one, work at a natural pace. So this one I find it can be tricky to work at a natural pace, because sometimes we might have deadlines to meet and we have to pick up the pace and put in more intensity, which is what Cal Newport talks about on his podcast, talking about slow productivity. So when you're working at a natural pace, that's all good and well when you don't have deadlines. But on a regular day, you want to work at a natural pace. You don't want to rush through it, because remember, haste makes waste. But there's going to be times where you're going to have to sprint, or there's going to be times where sprinting is the right thing to do, or it just feels like the right thing to do. Like if you're a creative and you try to work at a natural pace, it's going to be tough, because you might get into this flow state where you're creating some of the best work you've ever created. You're not going to be thinking about the pace that you're moving, or you're not going to be thinking about, some meeting that you have at 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock or what have you. You're going to be focused on that present moment. And that's something that a lot of good artists take advantage of. They take advantage of those flow states, and they produce the best work that they can produce in that moment. And all else falls to the wayside. Also, there's times where you just simply have to sprint, again, because there are deadlines. And this is called the lion's razor. I actually learned this last night on Twitter. I'm gonna put his name in probably somewhere over here, but he posted a thread of a series of razors that he uses. Occam's razor is one of them, and the lion's razor is one of them, which states that you sprint and rest. And a lot of creatives work in that same fashion as well. They work with this burst of energy, and then they chill for a little bit. Burst of energy, and they chill for a little bit. On a normal day, you want to be working at a natural pace that you can match. And this is predicated on working within your biological rhythms, which is something that Cal Newport also likes to look at when he's talking about productivity. He likes to juxtapose how we worked in the early stages of humanity in comparison to how we work nowadays, which is this breakneck, haphazard pace. A lot of people are catching on and saying, okay, this is too much. That has spawned the anti-productivity movement. I think slow productivity is a nice centrist space where you are aligning more with your biology, which is something I talk about in other videos. So the third tenet, obsess over quality. Now that you are doing fewer things, now that you are working at a natural pace, you have more time to put in quality work, not just from the flow state that you get from creating larger blocks of time to dedicating one task to, but you also can consciously put in more effort on a project. You can go into the nitty-gritties, into the details, and fine-tune where you need in order to produce the best quality of work that you possibly can. And this is something that I think that productivity is getting at, period. It's trying to get at producing the most value that you can possibly produce so that you can be the most successful that you can possibly be. And I think that, and I know that success is tied to your production with regard to the value of the product that you put out, right? The degree of the value of the product that you put out. The higher degree of value, the more success you can eke out of that. That's essentially what productivity is trying to get at. Slow productivity does that well, because when you take your time and you build something, you take your time and you craft something, you create a better body of work, a better lifetime of work, right? I really believe in that, because that's something that I try to do. I try to, make sure that I put out the best quality that I possibly can be. But again, there's that time where you have to ship, like Seth Godin calls it. You have to ship, whether it's done or not. You need to wrap it up and you need to ship it out, because real artists ship, real knowledge workers ship. So this leads me into my final point, which is to know when to stop. That's something that I have an issue with. When I'm obsessing over quality, when I'm obsessing over my output, I have an issue with knowing when to stop. So I had to recently demarcate on my phone when it's time to stop working. I have a little alarm that goes off on my phone. My devices, they all go into not available, which means that you can't reach me at all. No messages come through, nothing like that. And I'm pretty much done. Like I get up and move on to the next part of my day, right? So this is something that I found to be valuable. I hope you find it to be valuable. I'll probably be going more in depth on slow productivity as Cal Newport develops his ideas around it more, because it's something that I find to be truly interesting. And I really hope that he writes a book about this and I can read it. Definitely gonna buy it and check it out. If you like videos like this, click right here, and I'll talk to you guys next time.